Hello friends, new and old. I'm so glad you joined me on this episode of Getting Saucy TV. We're gonna do Italian classics. They're Italian American based, and we're gonna do two seafood dishes today. We're gonna do shrimp scampi and a spicy dish, lobster fra diavolo. So stay tuned and we'll get started. So today we are gonna start with shrimp scampi. Interesting story about this dish. So as we know, a lot of our Italian American classics came from immigrants who came to this country and tried to adapt to the food that was available here in America. This dish is no different. So we're using shrimp instead of what they used, which is langoustines or a lobster type crustacean in Italy. So in Italy, that dish is called scampi. Here we call it shrimp scampi, but we're really saying shrimp lobster. So it's a funny adaptation, but that's kind of how the dish came to play. So it's a very simple pan sauce of garlic, white wine, parsley, red pepper, and some lemon, and beautiful shrimp. It comes together really fast, really easy. You can serve it with pasta, or we're gonna dip it in some crusty bread today. So let's get started. The first thing we wanna do is take our shrimp. Now, I'm a person that doesn't like to have to work to eat my food. So these are tail off, they're deveined, they're peeled. I'm not gonna leave the tail on. I know it looks prettier in a dish. I don't wanna stick my fingers in a butter sauce and have to, pull the tail off to eat it. So these are already prepped. Give these some flavor. We're gonna put some crushed red pepper on it. And depending on how spicy you want it, add as much or as little as you want. I've actually got some whole garlic cloves. And what I'm trying to do is impart some flavor already in the shrimp because these cook in about 3 minutes. So by marinating the shrimp first in the garlic and the crushed red pepper, those will soak up some of that flavor before we actually put it in the pan. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go over to the stove and we'll make our pan sauce. So some people will cook this dish by starting with the shrimp and then taking the shrimp out of the pan and making their pan sauce. I really want to impart flavor into this shrimp. So I'm gonna make the sauce first and then we'll cook the shrimp in the sauce because the shrimp literally takes about 3 to 4 minutes. So to start, we're gonna put a little bit of olive oil and some butter because butter makes everything better. That's also gonna add some creaminess and some unctuousness to this dish. So I'm gonna put 2 of my 3 tablespoons in a hot pan. You didn't see that. And let that melt down. Then we're going to turn the heat down. So I started with a hot pan. We'll get this melted, and then I'm going to turn the temp down a little bit when I put the garlic in so the garlic doesn't burn and get bitter. Literally, after that, we're gonna put the white wine in. We'll let that cook down. And once it kind of comes together in a more like reduced creamy sauce, we'll throw our shrimp in and we'll be good to go. So our oil and butter mixture has melted. We made sure it coated the pan. Let's turn the heat down a little bit. Shrimp scampi is known for the garlic, so we're gonna put quite a bit of garlic in this dish. Really give it a nice flavor. And again, we don't want it to burn, so I would make sure that you're moving it around. And once that, oh, look at that beautiful golden brown butter. Oh, I'm excited. We're gonna deglaze it with some white wine. And so we want that actually to kind of reduce a little bit. It's still pretty liquidy. So let that reduce just a little bit. Let's throw our shrimp in. And we don't want to crowd the pan because then you'll have too much moisture. Now that we've done that, we can turn the heat up a little bit because we've got the shrimp in the pan with the garlic, so it'll help the garlic not burn. And get that heat back up. And then all we're gonna do is leave these in for about 3 to 4 minutes. The shrimp will be ready once they start to turn more pink than this. Not as translucent. So about 2 minutes on one side, flip them and do the other side. And then we will finish the dish off with some lemon juice, some lemon zest, and some parsley. And while I've got the shrimp in here too, let's not forget to season. So we want to make sure we season it with some salt and pepper. All right, it's been a couple minutes. I think our shrimp is pretty much almost done. Let's finish it off with some lemon juice, some lemon zest, and being a redhead, I like things spicy, so I'm gonna add a little bit more crushed red pepper. And again, this is just to your liking. And then to finish off, I'm gonna put that last tablespoon of butter in, which is gonna create more of a creamier texture. Give that a stir, let that butter melt down. Ooh, and then let's get ready to try it. So if you love garlic, you'll love this dish, and I wish you were here to smell it because it just smells divine. I've got a bowl. Let's put some shrimp in the bowl. And you can certainly eat this with some pasta if you'd like. But let's put some shrimp in the bowl. Let's get some of that luscious sauce. And I probably shouldn't try to do that left-handed because I'll get it all over myself. Because that sauce is just amazing. I'm gonna top it off with a little bit of parsley. Give it a nice, beautiful look. And then, I don't know about you, but I'm a bread and pasta girl, so I've got some crusty bread, which is a perfect way to finish this dish. Put a little butter on there. And you can just kind of sop up that sauce. Mmm, so good. Simple shrimp scampi. All right, we're about to get spicy for our second recipe. We are gonna make lobster fra diavolo, which literally means the devil. I don't know about you, but being a redhead, I'm feeling a little devilish today. So to get this recipe started, I actually want to make a court bouillon. So we're gonna make a seafood stock to start. I've already cooked off some lobster tails. So to make the court bouillon, we're gonna use the shells, some herbs, and some vegetables, and we're gonna make a nice stock that will help season our dish when we cook it. So let's come over to the stove and get that started. Okay, so we par-cooked our lobster. We didn't want to fully cook the lobster meat because we don't want that to overcook once we put it in the sauce itself. So par-cooked, got the meat out of the shells. I'm using the same water that we cooked the lobster in because it's already got some of that lobster flavor. We're gonna put those shells back in. And then I've got some onion, some carrots, some fennel, and a bay leaf that goes in. And we're just gonna let that come to a rolling boil, bring it down to a simmer, and let that simmer, you can let it go for a couple hours if you want to before preparing your dinner. The more you let it simmer, the more flavor you'll get out of that stock. So we'll let that go, and we'll come back, we'll get the sauce ready, and we'll cook off some pasta. So to make things a little bit easier, I'm gonna pre-chop the lobster as well as all my other ingredients. Getting those things pre-done makes putting the sauce together much more easy. You don't wanna be in the middle of making your sauce and then have to stop and come back and chop an onion or do some prep work. So we would like to get everything done beforehand. So I've got some lobster meat chopped here. Let's get this one chopped. And this is an interesting dish. There's some discussion about where this dish actually came from. Some people say that it came from Naples, that a young boy who became a soldier kind of invented it, and the nickname of Brother Devil came about, and that's where this dish came from. And then other people claim that it started in Little Italy here in New York. So there's some debate about it, but I will tell you that we do know that this was one of Frank Sinatra's favorite dishes, which I think is pretty cool. So let's get this over to the stove and get our sauce put together. Okay, we're ready to put our sauce together for this dish. And this is a spicy, spicy sauce. I mean, it's from the devil, so we've got to have, it be spicy, fiery. have a lot of heat to it. So let's start by putting some olive oil in our hot pan. And remember, I always tell you, get your pan hot first, then put your oil in so that you don't get distracted and, you know, blow up your kitchen with fire. Although that would be fun to have a little bit of fire today since we're doing a fiery dish. Okay, we've got that in. I'm gonna put onion and jalapeno. So give it some heat. And we're gonna soften this up just a little bit. Let that onion get translucent and let that jalapeno get softened. And now that we've got some stuff in the pan, I'm gonna throw in my garlic. That way it won't be as likely to burn and get bitter. Once that gets translucent and soft, we're gonna throw in some tomatoes. And I'm using a San Marzano tomato, which is a plum tomato specifically from Italy. And these are whole peeled, and I'm just gonna crush them so it creates some texture in the dish. We have a little chunkiness in there. And I do that just by squeezing it. That's the easiest way to do it. We'll add that in. And then I'm gonna add in my spices. So if jalapeno is not spicy enough for you, let's add in some crushed red pepper. And again, put in the amount that you can tolerate. Some cayenne. I do cayenne by the pinch, which is about 1/8 of a teaspoon per pinch. And again, just do that to your heat tolerance. And then we're gonna put some oregano and some chopped basil. We're gonna let that kind of come together and simmer. And then we wanna add some of that seafood stock. Look at that color. That's what we got from letting that other stock simmer for a long time. We'll add a little bit of that. And now you're probably thinking this is a very loose sauce. So we're gonna add some tomato paste, which will help thicken it up. And the last thing that we're gonna add is the lobster, because remember, that's par cooked, so it's not gonna take very long to finish that lobster off. We'll have a nice, rich, spicy tomato sauce with some lobster in it, and we're gonna serve that over pasta. Pasta water, remember, should have salt in it so that it tastes like the sea. Don't be afraid to add too much salt to it. Make sure that you've got enough water in your pot. A lot of times people think, let me put some olive oil in the water so that my pasta doesn't stick. If you've got enough water, it shouldn't stick in the first place. So don't use the olive oil, just good, large amount of water, salted. Put your pasta in. I'm using a dry pasta product today, and we'll let that cook down according to package directions, which is usually about 7 to 8 minutes. We want it al dente, so we want it to have some chew to it. We don't want it to be mushy. We want to have some texture to it. And as soon as this is ready, we put the lobster in, and we should be ready to serve it. All right, so I think we're ready to put the lobster in. The sauce has gotten thick. Tasting it, I want to add some acid. So, no, I have to cook with wine. I'm gonna add some white wine to it for acid. Some lemon juice, I think. Let's throw that lobster in. And remember, this is par cooked, so it's only gonna take a few minutes to finish cooking. Let's see, and some salt and pepper after tasting it. Now, there's some really good spice to this dish. And I, kind of was wondering, it's interesting that I use jalapenos, but then again, I am from Texas, so I had to get a little Texas flair in there. But it really brings a nice heat to this dish besides the cayenne and besides the red pepper. All right, I think we're ready to plate this and eat. I guess since I put jalapenos in this dish, I'm feeling a little Texan, so let's do family style. A nice big bowl of pasta with all this lobster on it. Ooh, it'll be so good. And then we can all dig in and share. So I'm just gonna put a whole big mess of pasta in there. Oh my gosh. And spoon that lobster spicy sauce on it. Ooh. I might have to dump the whole thing. So good. Look at that. Oh, all that sauce, all that lobster. Make sure that it's nice and saucy, because we like to get saucy on this show. And I think to finish it, let's tear some basil and put some Parmesan. I think that'll finish it off quite nicely. And I switched from white to red, even though this is seafood. That heat and that spice from the Fra Diavolo is gonna go nice with a beautiful Italian red wine. So I am ready to have some wine. I'm ready to have some spice. I'm feeling a little devilish today. That is our lobster Fra Diavolo. I think we turned up the heat with those recipes today. We made shrimp scampi, we made lobster Fra Diavolo, we've got our Italian red wine. I'm so glad you joined me. Follow me on jenniferbasil.com, on Instagram, Facebook for those recipes and more.